Live.
Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to this today's Coffee Break Insights. Yeah, we've got an interesting topic for you today as Marianne prepares some of the text
Yes,
here.
we go. I'm online now too.
Yeah.
And today is May 19th, 2021, and we are Marianne Cardinera and Lionel Francis, and this is our Coffee Break Insights. The content of all our episodes is our opinion and should not be construed as anything else. Our deeper understandings of mechanics and they're our opinion. All content is protected by copyright, and you may not use this content in any way, shape, or form without our joint written permissions. So thank you for that. So what's the topic? What have you got for us for as we sip our coffee and tea here?
Yeah, I just finished my coffee, but but in any case, yeah, and we've been talking about death, and so, but there's multiple angles, and there's different perspectives, and on death. So one of the topics that we wanted to bring to you today, all of you, is the benefits of going through a death space, because often that sounds paradoxical sometimes. Like, what are the benefits? Because often we feel we feel how intense and heavy and difficult the process may be. And this is one of those pieces, is it really, when we let go, and this is what we want to talk about today, is when we let go, it goes so much more. We get to this level of efficiency. We really make use of the death space. So it really is about letting go. And even that is maybe not like the fully accurate terms, is letting go. Is like, what are we letting go of? But it's. And so one of the things I want to bring in is often our perceptions are skewed on how we view things, and so the lens through which we looked at life is really changing with the death space. So that's one powerful piece that I want to bring in here today for our discussion. And if any of you have questions, of course, as always, we're really interesting to hear if you have any questions. And yeah, so Marianne, what would you like to add to that?
Well, we've got this week. We're kind of these two topics are kind of merging because we wanted to look at the benefits and help people kind of get a real, because when we start to understand what we're gaining out of something, that really helps to open up our ability to just kind of go with the process, and also the letting go piece came up really strongly to talk about with us. But so I wanted to kind of focus in on the benefits, because was it last Saturday? No, the Saturday before that, when we really went into both of us, individually, and also because we work together. So we come into that space together, and it really amplifies it for us. So the death space came through really, really strongly. And I got to a place where it's like, okay, with the work that I'm doing with Lionel, with the work that I'm doing with my own work and everything, it's like, all right, I give up. I don't care. I will just let it all go if that's what needs to happen. Getting to that place. And it's scary because you really don't know what's going to come out at the other end, what's going to show up, what's going to be there. And it's hard to let go of those things that we really enjoy and we really like to do. But as a result of jumping into this benefit piece, things have really, there's some deep stuff that has shifted for me. And one of the things, I can't get into specifics. I can identify it, but it doesn't get into specifics of I've let go of this relationship pattern. It's much bigger than that, than just a pattern like that. So for me, what really opened up as a result of going through this death space is there was this this thing around learning and education and what we focus on our studies on, and a little bit of the family context with that. My family, my mother especially, comes from a very long line of intellectuals and artists in Europe. And so that was a really strong piece in our family. And so the focus, it was a lot on language learning and the arts and all that, which is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But also that kind of it just kind of opened up for me, and it's like, okay, I want to learn more about physics. I want to understand physics, and I've always kind of had that interest, but never getting around to it. So I've actually bought a book, and I started to watch some movies that get more into how existence works. So that kind of ties into physics and that field of science. But taking it, because I have these deeper awarenesses that are coming in for me, is that has opened me up to, making that connection. And so opening up to this deeper, starting to look at things even more deeply and having more information actually coming through. So that's been a benefit for me. Anyways, yeah.
So to sum that up, I'd also say the benefit is then the letting go of these frameworks and the old perspectives that we've been conditioned and taught and even come through our lineage, and then opening up to actually expanding our view on something and bringing in new inspiration to look at something like physics very differently than how we've been taught, raised, conditioned in our culture and all of that. That's definitely one of the benefits of the death space, because it really has opened up, let's say, like for me also, that human level, which can be quite narrow sometimes in terms of looking at things from that perspective, and really opening that up to a much greater, much higher level perspective on how things work. So that's then, to bring it back to the benefits, seems like one of the benefits you're describing.
Yeah, and it's so we'll get a little bit more into the letting go next on Friday, but it's really hard because we think we're pretty expanded. It's like, well, I've got these expanded views and all that, and then something comes in and it's like, okay, if you want to go higher, if you want to go to a deeper level, if you want to expand on the expression of who you are and your potential. Something's got to shift, and it is scary because you have no idea what's going to come up at the other end.
Yeah,
and so allowing ourselves to just turn and face that and just kind of relax into it as best as we can. And sometimes it doesn't feel like we're really relaxing. We're like, but there is that opening up to that, and then at the other end, it is this potential that starts to open up, these interests, these desires, these understandings, that start to open up, and you start to see things in a very different way, and that starts to open a lot more doors. So it's before, it's like before the process, it's like one or two doors are open, and then there's all these possibilities out there, all this potential that's out there. And you could see them as little points, little dots of potential, but you're only accessing 3 or 4 or maybe 5 or 10 or whatever. Then going through this piece of death and dying, all of a sudden it just opens up, and it's like, oh, okay, it's just multiplied by 10 now, kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the universe and all the stars and all the the galaxies and the Milky Way and all that. There's just so much potential. There's infinite number of possibilities, and the more we kind of surrender what we think we know, the more we get in touch with the infinity of those possibilities. So that's part of what the death space brings us to as well, is to come to that greater or that higher path that we get access to. So yeah, definitely that piece has been there for me as well, and it really comes through relaxation, which is difficult when you don't know where things are going, but really to not like that, you don't have to really know, like it really is. And that's another piece, is to really stay present in the moment, to really stay focused in the moment, and be aware of what opens up, because these things can be subtle as well sometimes. So yeah, so that's pieces I want to bring in.
If you have any comments or any questions, please post. But Yeah, so it's and taking that thing of the universe, it's like we're looking through a telescope, and we're focused in one direction, and we're looking at one thing, and then it's like we don't quite have this kind of mechanism, but all of a sudden you have this lens that, instead of being focused in one direction, opens up, and instead of seeing what's right in front of you, opens up, and you start seeing kind of more and getting into the peripheral vision, so that it's like, oh my God, there's so much more that can be experienced, that can be had, that can be seen, because that field of vision has just widened,
Yeah.
has expanded out. So that's a really that's one of the actually, it's a fun. Once you get to the other side, it's like, wow, and you feel so much more alive and so much more connected. Things feel more vibrant,
Yeah.
in going through that. So some of it can be, it depends on how big of a death space you go through.
Right.
It can be kind of this narrow little focus, but even in that little narrow focus, with that particular focus, so when you die with that, or go through that death process of that identity, there's still that shift. I think for me, and I think for both of us, what happened a couple weeks back was kind of on a bigger magnitude. So it's like, wow, you kind of, it is a much deeper,
Yeah.
more expansive kind of wow than, but it's still kind of the same. It still acts in the same way.
Yeah, and Kayla is sharing, here that she's also in this death space
Mhm.
right now, and we're describing it, really well. Um, I also feel, because we often talk, about the infinity of possibilities and as the potential that we truly have, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm really getting from also how you're sharing it, Marianne, is but to get there, we need that death space. We need to use
Yes.
that death space to get there. Otherwise, it just becomes this, well, I know there's possibilities, but I don't know how to feel them, sense them, live them, be them. But that death space, that bridge that takes us into really experiencing more of that, which is what you described with the opening up of
Right.
those lenses. So
Yeah, and it's that sense of like what you're saying. Well, I know there's these potentials, these possibilities, and what happens is we're only seeing it. Somebody else has those possibilities and that potential,
yeah.
so that we're always seeing it as external to ourselves, as somebody else having the good luck, the good fortune, whatever, and then having, so, and also the other piece, just a reminder, is that this is part of life. So I have an article on my blog that I got into, more specific, actually, that two that connect up with this, the death process, and one is called Being and Doing, and the art of it. And there is a flow in life that goes where existence didn't show up all of a sudden, bang, to this fullest potential. But what happens is, like, or a plant, a plant goes through its cycle. As soon as it's reached its level of maturity and gone through to the height of its expression, so to speak, then there's this contraction, there's this pulling back, and there's this decay. It's got to decay to come back into a new form,
Mm-hmm.
into a different form. And for us, it's really kind of decaying of the old. So it's a refinement process that happens. This decay of the
Mm-hmm.
old, and then in that refinement, I mean, it can come out as so much more.
Yeah.
And the death space, it's a big thing right now globally. so there's that global space that's happening with a lot of our systems falling apart, and just the old structures of that humanity has been functioning under are falling apart. So that's also acting as an intensifier for that individual, uh, death space.
Yeah, and part of what we're bringing together, just to add to this, through our programs, through the Pure Life Awakening
Mm.
Intensive, which is more of this personal journey going through your own stages of life, and then the PLI, which is the Pure Life Infusion that we've just started, which is really exciting and it's going really well. Is that we bring in those structures to help all of you also be able to kind of move into that new consciousness, into what's coming, what's up ahead as the old is crumbling, which is kind of what we're talking about with this death space as well. So I just wanted to connect it up to
Yes, yes. No,
that.
that's a big piece that we bring in, and that certainly was a very strong space that on our first Pure Life Infusions um, session that was very strong and really went very deep for people. So it can be, especially when you have a group and you know, and we're facilitating that space for that death space to really bring out that potency for you in shifting out and shifting into yourself. So
yeah, and it is easier doing it together and getting that support, because this is it's a space to really, you know, be navigated through. It's hard to do on your own. So any of you on here listening and you're in the PLI and you've experienced the first session, it would be great to you know, to share a comment about what you're experiencing, possibly, just to add that in.
Kayla, she's done the Pure Life Awakening Intensive, which is an 8-week program, so that's different. Gave me a totally different view of death. It was amazing. Yeah, that was part of our Pure Life Awakening Intensive, and that's that final stage of life of viewing death. And when you understand what death is really about, and so this isn't just an understanding in our intensive, it's actually having that experience. Hey, Harold, good to see you. Good to pop in. So if you have any comments on the death space and the benefits of the death space, or how you've experienced it, you guys please pop in. We've got a couple more minutes here left, so we'd love to have your views on that. Yeah. So that was it was a fascinating experience, and for me it really it's like there's some things that I knew instinctively. I think that we all know at a deeper level, and for me, I was just aware of it. You know, it's like this isn't, you know, the way death is explained and described. This isn't death, and so this sense of something else, and then going through the experience, it like confirmed. It's like, yes, I was right. I know this, and really anchoring in, and just embracing, you know, being much more embracing of death and the death process.
Right. Yeah. I'm also I'm beginning to also notice how, and this may be kind of a benefit as well, as it is if you can, and we're practicing this too, but holding the space, holding your own space, holding your own center while going through this surrender, letting go, is really the key, because you can use those energies that, so to see, like a spiraling, like a death space, but you can use it to kind of awaken yourself. So that's kind of the higher level practice here to bring in, is if you can begin to master that more, then you will really get a lot of benefits out of the death space for you.
So that brings up a visual for me that is like kind of seeing yourself. You know, there's hurricanes, tornadoes, if you're familiar with that, but that kind of or typhoons. You know, at the center of that there's this stillness, and everything is just swirling around. So really kind of seeing yourself just at the center of all this swirling, you know, and decay and decomposing and nothingness. And so it even feels like there's nothing, this void, this blankness, and just seeing yourself just at the center of that and holding that center for yourself will help you move through that with greater ease. And with, you know, it's really interesting when we can let ourselves be in that place and of observing and noticing, and a lot of insights come through with that.
Kayla's really enjoying that.
I love that. Yes, for or that visual or that sense. If you don't, but people think that they're not visual, and then you say, well, think of a tree, and then boom, you've got it. So think of that center line within you, and see that for yourself. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks guys for showing up. If you're, please like our little video on YouTube and Facebook too, just to help get the word out there, and share this with other people, because it's fun to have more people to share these ideas and bring in insights to more people. And we'll see you on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I have my coming into being at 4 p.m. Eastern today. So later this afternoon, in about 6 hours. Well, 5.5.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for being here, everyone, and see you on Friday from me.
Or for both of us, or maybe at 4 p.m. if you pop in for coming into being and coming into that being, coming into that centeredness that we were just talking about.
If you're going through a death space, definitely show up for Marianne's coming into being here also, and it's a wonderful space to also connect. So yeah, in other words, see you guys on Friday.
All right, take care, everybody. Thanks for popping in.